Hi, it's David Smith. So after the first video, we've now got the coloured computer version. So the initial drawing I did was inked in. The lines were drawn in with a fine liner. It was then scanned, cleaned up, and we have the computer version. Now what I wanted to show you was a coloured pencil version in contrast. Now from that initial line drawing which I did, often what I'll do with pieces now is I will take a line version in a very pale grey and use that to work with for my line drawings. So the beauty of that is we're having a very pale version rather than having the thick black lines which you would often have with regard something like this computer drawing. What I can do is get in here, and where the lines would normally be, get in, put up a bit more shading, a bit more contrast, and have the lines really in the colours that you would expect for that point. So in regards to the hair, because we're looking at the underside of the hair here, these yellows, oranges would be a lot deeper. So we use that as contrast to whatever's next to it. Because it's hair, we're going to throw a few lines in and things like that. So wanted some sort of deep yellow for the eyebrows, and then if necessary, what I can do is when I want to pick out certain areas, I'll go back in with my pump pencil and pick out the details without overdoing it, without going in with the really thick black lines and giving that cartoony feel. By the time this is finished, it will then start to look a lot more like a pencil drawn illustration rather than a computer drawn one. So at this stage it's really a case of I suppose popping in stronger colours before putting in the details. So something like this, obviously got the line around the eyes. What we need to be aware of, obviously, that highlight as well. We want to keep that. So I'm going to put in the details. And if you can hear bashing and crashing about, that's because we're still on half term and my son is building Lego and pouring it all over the lounge floor by the sounds of it. So anyway, we'll carry on. Obviously somebody like Harley, the quite vivid colours we're going to end up with. So I'm going to build these up. So rather than go hell for leather with really dark colours initially, we can around the eyes because she's usually heavily made up. And it helps pick out those eye details, but say around the iris and stuff, the colour in the eye, we want to gradually pick that up. We don't want to overcook it at the beginning and it's a lot softer approach. And again, with the eye detail, we can do, like when you watch the video for drawing the eye, we can put some of the details in this eye. So around the edge, it's obviously darker than in the middle towards the iris, or the pupil should I say, not the iris. We're just going to build these colours up nice and slow to show you some of the techniques, what I employ when doing my book illustrations. Now again, normally as I work, I will have this masked off so I'm not rubbing over the pencil, but obviously at the moment I've not got to that stage. Now, as you see on here, she's got real light areas in the hair coming down into these darker areas. So at this point, what I'll start doing is with the use of the pencil, we draw in the darker yellow at this point, leaving these lighter ones. So we can't go over that with a very pale colour if we put a darker colour underneath. So you've just got to be aware of when you're doing anything like this. You can overlay colours, but obviously can't go lighter onto darker. And when you're dragging the pencil through the hair, just like when I show you how to do pet drawings at a later date, drag the hair in the direction that the hair's going, because then as you see the individual lines, they're all flowing in the correct direction. So follow that around. As we move down, pick back up into the flesh again. And pencil drawings, I mean, a lot of people don't use them, don't like them. They can be a real labour of love. They do take a long time. But for me, I think the overall effect's worth it. It's a lot more subtle. I think as an artist, it really shows your skills. If you can transfer into pencils, you can't hide behind the wonders of Photoshop when you're doing something like this. You've got to be able to draw, you've got to be able to colour properly, you've got to be able to build up your colours to get that real vibrancy at the end. Now, underneath the hairline, I'm going to go in slightly more vivid, fleshy tone for the shadows. Probably pull in possibly even a little bit of blue into there as well. We don't want the shadows to be too pink. What a pale blue does is really works in regards to shadows. Most shadows, when you look at them, are a series of blues, not really blacks. When you start putting too much black in, you'll kill the overall effect of the drawing. So try and steer away from your blacks at this stage. So again, what I'm wanting to do, I'm firing some of this colour in a little bit quicker than I normally would. But I want to pick out some of the key features when drawing something like Harley. Now, just put the the rest of this yellow in at this point. What I'm going to do is drag some of this colour down with the yellow, but as I drag it further and further, I don't want to go too dark, because obviously one of the main things Harley is known for is her vibrantly coloured pigtails. So if I pick something like this at the end here, it's going to be a lot darker, probably a little bit darker than I would like, but I'm not pressing on at the moment, so I can actually go back in a bit more of a hot pink at this point. Again, I'm working the lines in the direction that the hair would grow, and at the ends, the nice sharp pencil, I can still put the lines in which you would have around here in black, but I'm going to do it in the correct colour for this area. Now, as I move closer into where the yellow is, I'm going to start overlaying quite lightly at first some of these colours as it blends between the two shades. And what I can do is swap out to the yellow again, drag that further down, back in with the red. What I'm trying to achieve with this, as you can see, is that it's quite seamless on here, but you can get away with stuff like that on the computer. With this one, it's a bit more how the hair would grow, so trying to get that transition between the yellow blonde hair as we move into the, on this side, the red tips. So again, if necessary, drag a yellow down. But as we come down, we're getting darker and darker all the time. Again, now we've got this, we're kind of picking up a little bit of the highlight on the red. And we can drag some of that red back up into the yellow. So we start getting this definite transition then between the red on the ends through into the blonde. Of the hair. Now, what I want is slightly darker edge to the eye, so it really picks it out. Again, by building this all up slowly, we can do that. If we go in too heavy, too fast, we're going to struggle. Now, just like we do with the other drawings in the other videos that we've done, things like underneath the nose, what we want to do is we want that lighter area underneath, but then we've got to have that slightly darker area so it starts to give that 3D effect of the nose. Again, we'll have something similar underneath the chin area, so we're going to have the colour of the face, but then as we get down move that colour up the chin, but as we get down this bottom area we're going to have this darker line, still retaining this very pale colour under here, not white, because this is the reflected light coming back off the ground and will help give us that, again, three-dimensional feel to the face rather than a flat cartoony style. We're trying to go cartoony but more realistic nuances, I guess. Need to find the right colour pencil. Now with one of the greys you might be able to help pick this out a little bit more. And when we come underneath the chin, this should help pick this out. So if I put the neck area in quite quickly with the fleshy colour I'm using, you've got to be careful with your fleshy colours. What you don't want is that slightly to the touch of brown rather than on the pink. So this is too pink. You start trying to put that everywhere, it's going to look like you've been in a very hot bath or something like that. It's going to be too pink. But underneath here, where we then got the shadowy area, again come in with your blue, helps pick out underneath the chin, but it will tone down that pink as well. Giving that shaded area what you would need underneath the chin. Now, as we move around the eye area, one of the other things what Harley has, obviously the heavy eye makeup. So again, with something like this, what we want to start trying to do is change the overall effect of, so rather than a smooth stroke, because it's like a splatter effect makeup, we're kind of going to go a bit more dotty, a bit more splattery with the style of colouring at this area. And again, as we get onto the cheek, just pick that area out, into the eyelid, get the initial colour in there, and then as we get to the edges we change more to a stipple splatter type effect, which when you look at all the graphic novels and obviously the movie and things like that, you'll see on there as well. So as you can hear people moving around my house because it's half term at the moment. So as we get ready for another day entertaining the children. So again, we're moving with the flesh tones. Around this area. But then, as I mentioned, as we get closer, say to the eyebrow area, rather than going with the blacks, just using the grey of the fine liner underneath, just starts to pick out some of these areas. Want to use it a little, don't overcook it with doing this, because then you're going to end up quite rapidly ending up with a dark black outlined piece, much like the one that we have to our side, and that's not what we're trying to achieve with this. We're trying to achieve that far more subtle pencil version. Now, as we move into the mouth area, we're going to have that darkness of the gums. But we can really pick out the teeth. And the pale blue will really help make the white of the teeth pink. Now for something like this, we can then use a darker blue deep in the mouth to work on that shaded area, again to give the mouth depth, but also helps push these details through. And again, just touches the pump pencil, the grey of the pump pencil. Just helps pop that detail in without going over the top. Right. So again, we've done the skin, we've addressed the hair, the mouth area, shadows just like the rest. Now one of the other details that I did want to pick out is the wood. Now we've got the wood of the mallet, and again with pencils what we can do is follow the grain of the wood to put those wood type details, those veins running through those grains, those age lines, what you get with timber, and follow the direction. I don't seem to have my blending tool to hand. Now even with pencil crayons like this, you can use your blending tool to drag these colours down, smooth them out, and what that will do is it will actually, these white, so if I just quickly, I won't advocate doing this, use your blending tool, but what it does is it knocks out those white areas in between. It's dragged the colour around a little bit, and what we can do is around the edges we can trace in some of the lines. can even make it quite knotty if we want. And drag those details again through the wood, because we want it to feel like a piece of solid wood in this mallet, what she's got. And again, where the edges would be, I'm going to use the brown here to pick those edges out rather than the black, as we've mentioned on the other drawings. And just build the colours up slowly until we're happy with the overall effect. Again, as we get down this area, because it'll be a little bit lighter, it's starting to pick up some of the light coming down on top. We can also make this area a little bit darker. If we're assuming the light's coming down this direction, this back edge would be darker than the front. Remembering again to try and keep a little bit of a paler point here, but still that reflected light that's going to be moving around. Again, as we transfer to the shaft, drag the colours down the shaft in the direction that the grain would take. Remembering that on top of the shaft we're going to have this paler area where it picks up the light. Now, as we get behind Harley at this point, this timber is going to be thrown into a bit of shade. I want to drag that shade up. And I'm dragging some of this. This helps pick out or push forward the colours of the face as well. And again, on the underneath, touch of the reflected light coming back up. Keep that pale area before we move into that lower shaded spot. And again, the shadows are always going to benefit from a touch of blue in there. It's very, very subtle, the effect it does, but it really brings those shadows to life. Rather than being just flat, lifeless. And this picture is all about life and vibrancy and things like that. Again, we can drag some of the grain up and down the shaft, just remembering that obviously when we hit the shadows, that grain is going to look a little bit darker. So again, we can still do that, we can still drag those elements. And again, underneath the shadow area here, I'm going to go quite dark brown. But the beauty of that is it's going to help push, which is then going to be the blue side of her hair. It's going to push that out as well. At this stage, just build the tone values up slowly. Again, don't go in all hell for leather and put something in too dark and then regret it. Because this is kind of the downside to working in pencils. If you drop a clanger at this point, you're either doing a lot of cutting and pasting, or you're going to have to redraw the picture. So again, it really just separate the better artists working in pencils like this. And if you're looking for somebody to illustrate your books, you don't just want to have maybe that flat Photoshop style which is so popular at the moment. Maybe you want something what's going to stand you out from the crowd. So look out there, look for artists who are going to offer you something a little bit different from what's currently in vogue, because inevitably with these things is they'll slip out of fashion and it'll be the next thing. And it certainly seems to be the way the market is going at the moment, is moving back more to that traditional style of colour pencils. So, as I start to wind up this video to a finish now, I'll just reiterate what we've gone through. So we've slowly started to build up the flesh tones. We've shown you how to, obviously underneath the hairline and things like that, where the shaded area is, I'm going to build up those tones. The hair, we've shown you how to, when you're colouring in, colour the hair to the direction that the hair moves, to give it a greater feeling of reality. And then we've shown you how to blend through with the coloured areas which we've got on Harley, as we graduate through the colours that way. And again, even to the effect of showing you wood textures and things like that, how we can finish the mallet using wood textures, and the versatility that you have with something like a pencil crayon. So what I'll do now is I will finish this drawing off a camera so that you can see the two side by side, and obviously make a judgment on obviously which style it is that you prefer. But again, if you like what you see, I would really appreciate a subscribe to the channel. It is a massive help. So subscribe, like, leave comments if you want to see more of these types of characters. As I mentioned in the other one, I've been asked for Batman and I've been asked for Joker, but if there's anybody else you'd like me to cover, please leave a comment. But in the meantime, all the best, happy watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. But thank you very much. Bye bye.